Hello and warm welcome to today. And of course, today we are half the week. We are midweek, and it's a Wednesday, the 6th of September 2023. Guys, we're in 2023. Don't be crossing. We are still in the same year, definitely. But anyway, just to remind you, Smart Minutes Business is here. We're dedicated started to give you every information that you need regarding business, even entertainment. We have it. Sports, we have it. So definitely, if I were you, I would stick around. But anyway, today started off with a little bit of drizzles. I was actually worried on my way coming, and I was like, oh, I hope it doesn't really shower a lot, and definitely people are going to be inconvenienced going to their workplaces. So anyway, my name is Masi Katsime, and of course I am with Godwin Batume. How is your morning? How did you find the morning?
My morning is great. Good morning, world. It's Smart Business this morning. How was yours, Masi?
Oh, my morning is good, actually. I was traveling to work, and I told this person, I was like, why don't you get umbrellas for, your passengers and what? They was like, no, we can't, passengers these days are tight with money, so definitely. I'm like, once you get an umbrella, you have to increase a bit, like maybe the cost, maybe with 1,000 or 500. Like, no, it's better we'll be hit by rain, the both of us.
I know, I feel like umbrellas are much less on the road these days, right? You don't find that many umbrellas, and if they are, they're expensive. It's like buying land.
But anyway, being the season, a rainy season, we have to be cautious.
Right.
Walk with an umbrella, walk with a raincoat. No, it's very funny for a normal person.
And people have to be careful with the borders.
Yeah, that's
Tell them to move slower.
Yeah, that's
don't move too fast, just to avoid accidents. It's a very precarious time.
Yeah, precarious time, like you said. Of course, and of course, don't forget to invest with Zabu. And of course, I tell you, they have everything that you need. Invest in government bonds and securities. Zabu says, my money, my future. And of course, if you want to reach out to them, you can dial *29# and follow the prompts right there. And of course, opening time is at 8:15 a.m. That is 1 hour from now. And of course, closing time is at 3:15 p.m. And of course, they tell you Monday to Friday, they are active except for public holidays and of course, weekends. Zabu says, my money, my future, and Alltex East Africa says, there's something new. This is the year 2023. And of course, starting off today, there's been something trending, Godwin. Yesterday already in the papers.
Yes.
How Ugandans' passports fraud. Some passports fraud. Termed as fraud in East Asia,
right.
And of course, which covers Singapore, China, and of course some of the Eastern Asian countries. And of course, it's affecting trade for those that trade into China, Singapore. Imagine that. Imagine possessing a passport that is not valid, that is not recognized. Imagine that you're already at the airport and they're telling you.
I know, it's a very scary place for business in Asia, because as you know, a lot of Ugandans are known to do business in Asia, particularly China, Singapore, and Malaysia. Having lived in Malaysia, I can tell that they're very tight with the measures they have with Ugandan passports. And it used to be mostly with West African countries. And this particular story touched me in a way because it was discovered that a choir that was going to sing in Singapore, on their way to Singapore, was stopped by the immigration officers, citing that the passports were fraudulent. Can you imagine that? And that is because there was a person that was caught with a Ugandan passport that's actually not Ugandan, West African.
Wow, really?
Yes, so we're finding a lot of West Africans that are taking on Ugandan passports, which begs the question, is it that easy to access the Ugandan passport? If not, why are there not tighter measures for us to protect our passports? So it's affecting our business, and a lot of Ugandans are doing business abroad, especially in Asia. So that's a tight one.
Yeah, that's actually a tight one for us staying in Uganda. And of course, for Ugandans, they're really, someone was telling me of a story how, 5 people can use one passport. Imagine that, 5 people. How is that even possible?
I remember a story whilst I was in Malaysia. There was a young friend of mine who had lost a passport, and she found it the next day crumpled up in bits. And you're wondering, what was someone doing with that passport before? So what they do is they probably take your biometrics, they take your picture, they leverage you because they take advantage of the fact that, oh, we're all Africans, right?
Yeah.
So it might as well just fix in someone else that looks similar to you in your passport with all your details. And what happens is they use your passport for fraudulent behavior, like carrying drugs, carrying all of this contraband across borders, which affects us in the long run.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things people should be careful with. You know, it's easier for for Uganda, it's transaction. You give the person money and they do, but you don't know what the kind of business they're going to use the passport for.
Exactly.
But anyway, that brings us to today's topic of discussion. We're going to be talking about, how the East African passport is not recognized in some of the countries. For instance, Denmark. We don't know why it's not recognized there. Yet we knew the East African, maybe Africa.
So we're probably wondering if it's not up to snuff, or if our passport isn't up to the regulated details. We need to figure out what the issue is, because our East African passport should be able to pass, especially considering that we're getting all these countries signed to we just signed on, as we talked about yesterday, DRC Congo to the EU, to East African community as well. So it's going to be, so visa free, they're able to come to East Africa. So it's going to be quite difficult if our passport isn't able to move to other places.
Starting off, we're going to look at the Immigration Act of 2009, and this says this is the primary piece of legislation governing immigration matters in Uganda, and it outlines various aspects of immigration, including insurance of visas and permits, and deportation and penalties for immigration-related offenses. Now, of course, on that list, that is visa categories. Of course, we have different visas. We have business visas, we have student visas, and of course work permits.
Right.
You have to be aware of whatever visa you are acquiring.
Right.
Yeah, that is why we need more of education. We need to educate people more on immigration. The
immigration laws as it pertains to our country, and the immigration laws as it pertains between Uganda and Singapore, because there's the accepted passports, the official one, there's the diplomatic one, and the ordinary passport. Those are the ones that have been accepted in Singapore for all time. However, this is not a new incident, Mercy. It's been something that's been happening for a while, where a lot of the Ugandan passports have been flagged as being used by other countries. It's happening, I think, in Myanmar and different parts of Asia. So it's just now where it's become a huge problem. And that's going to affect our business in a large way, because we do I know a lot of Ugandans in Chikuwo. We have many people that are buying goods from China. So it's very scary.
It's really scary for the business community right then. Of course, talking of the roles of immigration, the cut cross-border control and security in regards to issues of security, immigration is there, and of course issuing visas and permits. They are the ones in charge for issuing visas and permits. There is no other place. Please, don't use brokers.
Right. And be very, and I think the advent of the express passport, right? Because a lot of Ugandans are trying to get the passports much quicker. Because I did a little survey yesterday, and a lot of people, let's say you're traveling tomorrow quickly, you want to get your passport, someone in immigration. I would prefer that we use the right systems. Right now, they have everything online. We can do it. We get to the lines, follow the cues, follow all the protocols to be able to avoid any fraudulent people. And I noticed on Snapchat that people that advertise getting express passports for about 800,000 and above. Can you imagine? These are independent parties, separate of the immigration office. So we have to be very careful where we are sourcing these passports, right?
Of course, regarding what would actually give you as a piece of advice if you're trying to process for a visa or maybe a passport, reach out to the agencies that are responsible for that. If it's lining up, it's okay. Get a day off work and tell them, you know what, I'm going to have.
A passport is a very important document, so you can't be laissez-faire with it. And I know in Uganda, because because of the bureaucracy that we find at immigration, the lines of waiting. I know we can wait. In the past, we've been having to wait. I know I've waited for my passport for over 4 months before. In the past, before I traveled. So it can be a very long time. But I know that they're doing a lot to make sure that it's much quicker. You're getting a passport much better, much faster. But we have to be careful where we're sourcing these passports.
All this also kind of has an impact on our image as Uganda.
Yes.
Now, people are not going to have. People actually are now cautious. People from other countries are like, okay, so Ugandans are this type.
Exactly.
We should be more cautious. on them.
Especially when we're talking about business, we're talking about you build Uganda by Uganda. If we talked about the story yesterday about how Nigeria is now exporting more goods to the UK. If we're looking to export more goods to Asia, if we're looking for more brand partnerships, if we're looking for more working relations with other countries, we cannot be having such stories because they'll be more cautious about working with us in the future, right? Or buying goods or doing business with Uganda because they're thinking, if you guys have fraudulent behavior, why on earth are we investing with you?
I know, definitely. So it deters our for investors coming to our country, and of course having an impact on our image. For Ugandans, think it's just something easy, but then be cautious, be alert. Okay, just imagine you're there and they tell you, you know what you possess is fake. What would you do at that moment?
It's a very scary place because I know once you get to
they
the
will interrogate you,
and they're extra.
that
meanwhile,
interrogation room is the worst place to be.
It is, and it's apparently they're having more scrutiny when it comes to a Ugandan passport. So if even those that are going in with good intentions, people are actually going in to have good business that's done, clean business, are also being scrutinized. You're looked at as every other person because of one bad apple that ruins the rest of the crowd.
And the fact that we're on the grey list of money laundering and terrorism, we are at risk.
Yes. We're at very high risk right now, and we have to be extremely careful, especially we're trying to do business, we're trying to travel. It's going to be much harder to do that.
God. But anyway, we shall dive deep into this very discussion regarding the passport fraud in our country, Uganda, and how it's affecting business across Africa and across globally, not only in Africa, but globally. China is the second largest economy. So definitely, what does that imply to us as Ugandans? Those that do business, the school there, what does that imply? So definitely we shall have more of this conversation at around 9. But of course, for now, we're going to go deep into the press review.
All right. Let's try to sign it.
All right, starting off with New Vision, I see a huge headline here. Government issues new rules on O-level assessment, and of course a new curriculum, all that on the new curriculum. And of course, OPM engineers remanded over 689 million bribe. This is a juicy one.
Interesting, yes.
689 million bribe.
Wow,
what is happening? That is happening. We are trying to do away with corruption, but every now and again, news on corruption is coming in.
And it's at the headline. This is the top of the page. So we're struggling. This is that public image that we're struggling with. So countries that are trying to do business with us are probably wondering, if you guys are bribery, if you guys are doing all these things underscore, why should we work with you? Interesting. So we see here in the Daily Monitor, we have Arsenal fan killed after Man United loss. Can you imagine?
People really get emotional when it comes to sport.
Yes.
Emotions are high in there, and they're like kids.
I know.
Sports
Yes.
makes you like a child. Like this. When someone loses, you're like, oh.
It is interesting. I know, having grown up with a family full of Man United fans. From my dad, who's a Man United avid person, he stays in Manchester, so he's been to the games. It's kind of crazy how intense the fans are and how crazy they get about their players. Yeah.
Looking at this part of OPM contracts, here it reads, 2 engineers from the Office of the Prime Minister. Actually, the Office of the Prime Minister has always had issues with corruption, because that is where most of the money goes to. So they are responsible for dispersing of the money. So this is where the money is. This is where everything goes down.
I wonder what the Anti-Corruption Board is doing about that, right?
Oh my God, people fear scrutiny. So these will be brought. And of course, the 2 engineers from the Office of the Prime Minister have been accused of receiving 689 million from the various service providers as a reward for contracts.
Wow.
So I've been issuing out contracts and now these people are rewarding them casino.
Can you imagine?
Money.
But Uganda, we have to do better. What's happening? Because we are honestly taking these bribes on, and it's affecting the general image. One person wants to take over a whole chunk of money. We have to be careful about the kind of bribery that's happening.
I mean, I don't know if maybe to them it's casino money. I don't know. Yeah, it may be casino money, but for the public out there, that's lots of money that could be used for something productive.
I know.
Yeah, and of course,
to develop the country, yes.
Yeah, they were remanded to Ruzira prison for allegedly practicing corruption. That is a form of corruption. Bribery is a form of corruption. But if it's casino, it has to be 50K.
But I hope they took some of that money and put it into small businesses. I mean, that's what we should be doing. For all these people that are caught for corruption, take a bit of that money and put it into the small, thriving businesses.
Let them take them to charity organizations. That is good. That is good. At least, that is also like money laundering. If you take it into businesses, that is money laundering.
Yes.
How are you going to be accountable for this?
I mean, if these are regulated by the government, and we know that these are particular people that are starting up and they just need a little bit of funding, we're trying to build business in Uganda, build Uganda by Uganda, right? Because even with charities themselves, you would argue that there's also that kind. They're not regulated. Things like churches, things like charities. I scrutinize those more because they don't pay taxes. A lot of those don't pay taxes anymore. But a small business will pay taxes, give back to the community. But also we're building young businesses, right?
That would be a nice idea. Let them invest in the startups.
Yes, startups. People that are honest, trying to earn an honest living, trying to build Uganda by Uganda, because that's the image. Definitely. And we're seeing here in the Daily Monitor, MPs have tasked government to act on high school fees. I mean, it's a huge problem now,
Now that students are going to school, most schools are really, because of the new curriculum and all that, and third term, kids are going to do their finals, UCE, PRE, whatever it is, those final exams for those candidates. And of course, now school fees is high.
It's extremely high. I know people that are starting to do homeschooling because of this. There's a huge advent of Ugandans that are starting to homeschool their children because they're thinking the ridiculous, exorbitant fees are high, but my child is not even getting the best education, right? You come back home, your child can barely do math, can barely speak English. So people are taking back the power into their hands because when you're homeschooling, there's less of that pressure, there's less of that money. That's whatever. And it's you put that money into something else.
But you could hire a tutor because honestly, I don't think I would go beyond a certain class to teach my kid. There's a certain class.
I mean, it takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of
reading. Oh my God! And that is the time we do not have lately as parents. Yes, we do not have. Anyway, right now I'm joined. Andrew Barije is going to give us what is happening in traffic today. Good morning, Andrew. How is it there? I can see there's a little bit. People are walking to work. That is the trend these days. People exercise during morning. How is it there?
Well, thank you very much. That is a Godwin and Massey, and I'm standing here at the clock tower on one of the busiest junctions, definitely around here, the city center. And according to the overall situation, it's quite very heavily congested. And now that is dependent on the different people that are heading to the different destinations. You could probably be coming in, that is from those different destinations, and you're coming to the city center, but you are likely to actually use this very route. Now, of course, speaking from my own experience when I was coming in down here, because one of the routes that link up here is the Entebbe Road route, and we actually had to get out of the car to slope down to come and give you this live broadcast. So it's quite heavily congested. So if you're planning to use Entebbe Road as you're coming towards city center or heading towards other related destinations, but you're likely that is to use the clock tower, well, chances are high that you are actually going to be delayed by a great deal. Remember, the vehicles that are coming in, that are connecting within the city center, they are coming in from the different areas. Remember, this very roundabout still harbors different, there are different kind of roads that link towards it. So that explains why you can see quite a huge congestion. So many in this Kampala metropolitan area, as you can actually get to observe. Now, if we can switch our eyes to the Entebbe Road, the vehicles that are coming in from Entebbe Road, and definitely majority of them be linking up to Of course, they pass by the Usafi Taxi Park and they connect straight here. And majority are heading to the old park, the biggest percentage of them. You can see they are actually, ever since we came for this broadcast, they had been held. Now, this is a space of about 5 to 8 minutes. So if you're coming in from areas along Entebbe Road and you're coming towards city center, I can guarantee you, if you're not patient enough and if you have something that is quite very urgent, you could actually get a border for you to be efficient in terms of your executions. But that is the situation according here. It's heavily congested. If you're coming in from Kajansi, you're coming in from areas like Namasuba, you know, so many of those areas, you're likely to be delayed a little bit. Despite the fact that you can see the vehicles being released in there, the interval is quite limited, and they're being held. They could be released for just the shortest time period, like about 3 minutes being set free. Then before we know it, they will be actually held back again. Now we can switch our eyes back. That is if we are to take a look at the vehicles that are coming in from the areas along Gaba Road. Now talking about Kabalagala, Kansanga areas, Bonga, it's quite also a little bit congested because of the fresh constructions that have actually just resumed around this area. So that is actually also contributing to the congestions, as you can see. So you can see that quite, this is one of those junctions that actually have more than 2 traffic officers. That is according to my observations as compared to other junctions, and they're all actively involved in controlling these vehicles. So the vehicles coming in from Gaba Road held a little bit, and well, if you're still coming in from Kansanga, Kabalagala, or even Shibuli, probably you could try using the access road, which can actually link you to the Ginger Road traffic lights. Then you come towards Kampala Road and you'll already be in the city center. I would think that could be an option. Access road, you link up to the Ginger Road traffic lights, then link to Kampala Road if you can't actually come towards the clock tower to head to the different destinations. Now, this is for those personalities that are staying around Chibuli or even Kabalagala, and you feel like your situation is quite very urgent, you have to be right here in time. You could actually opt for that, and that would be a very efficient still for you. But that is how we're observing the situation here at the clock tower. Very heavily congested, and well, I mean, for the residents of the places I've mentioned, that is Kabalagala, Kansanga, Bunga, well, you could find other better alternatives for you to participate when it comes, I mean, other alternatives for you to link up to the city center to execute business like how you execute it. In other words, the whole area is really very congested, and the traffic doing whatever it takes to put everything under condition. Quite many pedestrians here actually, if you can observe, and very many borders. So why many borders? Because majority of the passengers that are being transported to the different destinations that link up to this very junction very clearly know that it's heavily congested, so that you better find a faster means of transport for them to be able to reach the city center, the business center, to execute what they ought to execute. Well, that is the situation like here at the clock tower. I'm Andrew Barije, and of course broadcasting live here. That is at the clock tower junction. Back to studio.
Side for traffic update report, and of course those that are planning to go to the clock tower, you know the situation that is there. You know, it's a busy area. Actually, it's a very busy area. People are passing, people are crossing, vehicles, borders. So definitely, I think the traffic is not that much, but then the congestion there may be a little bit disturbing. Cars turning and others going back, and is it a one-way? It's a one-way road, so definitely there is a lot to look out for today. And of course, before we go into for a short commercial break, don't forget to invest with Zabu, and of course you can invest as low as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Just dial *29# and for the prompts. So definitely the opening time is 8:15 a.m. to 3:15 p.m. Sorry, and of course, Zabu says my money, my future. Notex East Africa says it's something new. So from Monday to Friday, unless it's a public holiday, you can try Zabu. Trust me, it works. It has worked for many people. Are giving testimonies. People are giving, you know, testifying about this, and definitely you can invest that amount. 50,000 is really quite affordable for everyone. And of course, My Money, My Future for Zabu and Otex East Africa says, do something new 2023. And of course, Mad Means Business Force for a short commercial break. But of course, coming up is Caribbean East Africa and what is happening globally. We shall be, diving deep in what we talked about yesterday, the African Climate Summit. Why is it in Africa particularly? Why are they focusing on Africa? Well, we shall be right back.